So here's our Red Ranger going to Jason, our Blue Ranger going to Billy, kinda. How many of you out there are actually displaying a Megazord in tanker form, huh? Make my monster grow! It's pretty strange. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers are back again, this time from Playmates Toys, but for a brand that has been around for so long and has had so many iterations already. Are these worth picking up? Well, we're gonna check out all of the new Auto-Morphin Rangers and the Zords. Let's get into it. So here's your new packaging for the head flippin' morphin' action Power Rangers Reignition figures from Playmates Toys. Bright, colorful. I actually really like the helmets alongside the blister bubble there. An interesting note to point out is for some reason the Pink Ranger and the Yellow Ranger do not have a Try Me feature on the back of the box, while the rest of the Rangers all do. On all of the male Rangers, there's a slot on the back of the box that allows you to press down on the little tab there, allowing you to see the morphing feature in action right there in the package, as long as the blister doesn't get in the way. So here's our Red Ranger going to Jason, our Blue Ranger going to Billy, kinda, and the Black Ranger going to Zack. And then we got Rita Repulsa, who also has her own action feature. There's a push button there for what the packaging calls her spell casting feature. So here's our Auto-Morphers outside of their packaging. The figures stand just shy of a full 6 inches tall, making them pretty much identical to the scale of all of the other Auto-Morpher Power Rangers that have come before these. Overall, the figures feel really good. I will say that the plastic on here does feel like that modern kind of softer plastic. If you've picked up any of the recent Ninja Turtles figures from Playmates Toys, for example, I think you know what to expect here. It's also very similar feeling to Hasbro's recent offerings with the Power Rangers line. For the most part, that feels fine. In some instances, the joints feel a little gummy, but overall, they do feel sturdy. I will say the joints feel a tad loose on some of these figures, in some places worse than others, and I'll definitely be pointing those out as we're going along here throughout the video. Otherwise, as far as your articulation is concerned, no movement at the head. Head does not turn left and right, it is stuck in place. Shoulders only move forwards and backwards, so we do not have the ability to move the arms outwards like we did with the more recent Hasbro offerings. Swivel and bend at the elbow, standard swivel at the wrist. Of course, the torso is completely made up of the action feature, so we have no added articulation there. You do have these hinge joints on the thighs though, where the hinges are on the front there, you can see. So legs can go forwards and backwards. They can also swivel up there. You do have a joint at the knee with a swivel at the knee as well. I will say the knees are one of the spots where the joints are pretty tight. And then you can see the feet, they just swivel left and right. There's no bends or rocks or anything like that. So that joint is... I'm never a fan of just a swivel at the ankle. It makes it a pretty unusable joint because really that means there's only one way the foot can stand, and that is flat on the ground. Now these figures have been made specifically with kids in mind, with the action feature at the forefront. Playmates has not been shy about saying that. So we'll go ahead and get into that. With all of the male figures in this line, you've got the little flip tab right here on the back of the torso. When you push that down, you can see that that should cause the head to rotate all the way around to the helmet. Now that does hang up sometimes like you saw the first time there, but for the most part, I think it works pretty good. And you can see that it'll flip back and forth every so often. You're gonna have to give it a little nudge because it just gets stuck, but it works pretty good. Yeah, see, about every third time, it's like I have to nudge it. But you can see you can continuously flip between unhelmeted and helmeted, you know, unmorphed and morphed. Sometimes the head will even roll all the way back around to the same one that you started with, which is also kind of funny. But the feature works pretty good. Now this is very similar to the way Hasbro just did the action feature. Now let's bring in Kimberly here for another example, because out of the box, once I got a chance to play around with it, I realized exactly why Trini and Kimberly do not have the Try Me feature on their box. That's because theirs are much more similar to the vintage versions in that they're only meant to go to the helmets, and they don't go back to the unmorphed head. I don't know exactly why that is. It might have something to do with the thinner bodies that they gave to the females. Now, I say that knowing that they're still very bulky and elongated in the torso because they had to squeeze in the action feature. However, you can see that they did something here that Hasbro didn't do with their Auto-Morphers, that Bandai didn't do with the originals, and they did attempt to distinguish the female body from the male body in this line. They even gave Kimberly the skirt, which we didn't have before. Those original figures were all the same body, just in the different colors, and then they had different unmorphed heads. So Playmates did give different body types to the females here, and while they're still bulky, like I said, they're a little more slender, and I think that's why the action feature is a little different. So you have to manually move that head around to go back to the unmorphed head, and then you can see, you can push that same little trigger in the back, and that should flip it to the morphed head. You see that it does hang up sometimes. It's hung up on me a few times. It is certainly not perfect, but for the most part, it is working as you would expect. There you go. Now we got the Yellow Ranger there. So that's the difference between the female bodies and the male bodies here. Otherwise, these do work exactly as you would expect them to. They all feel the same otherwise. And I will say that the unhelmeted heads look pretty good on these. Like, these are some pretty decent likenesses. They've got some simplistic paint deco, sure, but I do like these head sculpts quite a bit, and they really do stand out from previous incarnations of these figures. Like, I actually really like how this is like the early version of Tommy there with kind of the shorter hair and the green bandana. That's pretty sweet. Cool stuff. He's got the big gold shoulder armor, of course. This is all part of the sculpt. It's not removable. In fact, the sculpt even goes onto the arms, and there's a weird shoulder cut there, so it does make the armor a bit uneven. It's a bit strange. I wish that I had some of the original Bandai figures to do a comparison time, but I do have this, one of the Hasbro figures. So it's comparison time. This is the brand new Playmates Toys Billy alongside the recent Hasbro release of Billy. So you can see the comparison with the head sculpts really stands out here. Obviously, they chose not to put the glasses on this new version of Billy compared to the other one there, but I think you can see what I was talking about. I think the likenesses are decent on these new heads. Sure, the paint deco is a bit simplistic, and maybe the sculpt is a little soft, but I can actually see the actor in that sculpt. I can see what they're going for there. Whereas the one from Hasbro definitely has a bit of like a vintage charm to it. Again, I really wish I had the actual Bandai one to compare, but I don't. You see the action features do work similar on those two figures, but there are some differences there you can see as well with the helmets. There's a bit more paint deco on the Hasbro one. There's a silver trim on the visor. There's yellow painted eyes. Those are missing on the new Playmates one. Also, the silver is a lot more metallic on the Hasbro one, and the Hasbro one has deco on the Morpher on his belt, whereas it's more sculpted on the Playmates one, but it's missing detail on the actual power coin and everything. So it's definitely a mixed bag between the two there. But you can also see the total difference in the design of the bodies, the torsos. There's a lot more attempt at doing an actual male torso or an actual human style torso. Even though they're still bulky and weird for the action feature, they're not quite as flat and wide as those vintagey styled ones from Hasbro and Bandai. Interesting comparison. So of course, I think the last thing to really talk about with these guys is their included accessories. Every single one of them comes with the blaster, which can be holstered right there at their hip. And they also come with the sword form of the blaster. Very minimal paint deco, just white and red, no other deco on there, so they can hold on to those daggers In their hands, okay. You can see it's a bit of an interesting grip trying to get those. There you go. Takes a little bit of work, but actually gets a pretty good grip on them. Of course, in addition to those, each of them do come with their signature weapons as well. So the Red Ranger does come with his power sword. It's a very gummy sword. It's very soft, very pliable. Does have silver on the blade, but no other paint deco on there. Again, you kind of have to squeeze it into the hand, but he actually gets a really firm grip on there, so that is pretty cool. But again, very minimal articulation with these guys, including the fact that they can't turn their heads. Billy gets his lance, or his size, or whatever they... his lance, but they also combine to make the staff-like weapon there. There you go. Fits in his hand pretty good. Trini has her dual size, her daggers. There she is. Kimberly has her bow. It does have some red deco on one side of it. Obviously, the minimal articulation means you're not going to get any, like, bow poses, but she can hold it in her hand just fine. Zack comes with his battle axe. This is one of the places I want to point out loose joints. It's pretty bad on my Zack. All of them have kind of loose wrists, but Zack seems to be the worst offender, and I don't know if it's going to be like this on everybody's, but dude cannot even hold on to his axe. His wrists just totally flip over, and it's like that on both wrists, which is really kind of sad. Then Tommy gets the dragon dagger, which is done in like a nice metallic gold and silver combination. And there you go. Call on the mighty Dragon Zord. And then there's Rita, which honestly, pretty good looking Rita. Once again, I think the likeness is decent on the face, or at the very least, it's a pretty good face sculpt on there. Pretty basic paint deco, but it's pretty cool. The overall figure feels a bit stiff. She actually does have legs sculpted under the dress there, but all they do is swivel. There's no knee articulation, no foot articulation. So really you can just kind of swivel them around, which means there's only one good place to keep them. And even then, it's a bit hard to find the right way to keep her standing. That staff definitely helps her. The dress there is pliable, but it's a bit stiff, which is what makes the whole figure feel that way. And then, of course, I showed you she's got her own action feature, which is just in the form of this push button on her back, which just makes her hand move forwards and backwards. They call this a spell casting action feature. So she does come with this little purple lightning blast. It's really interesting the way they made it, though, because it's just got a handle on there, so she holds it, which looks a little strange, and then I guess that's, you know, she's casting a spell. Now, the other thing you could do is she's got her wand, and you could put that in her other hand there, and you could do that as well, you know, make my monster grow! So that's always an option as well. But, you know, it's a fine figure. It just doesn't, I don't know, the movement on it is a bit stiff, and obviously you've got the action feature over there on the arms, so each of the 5 Zords for the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Reignition line from Playmates Toys comes in these really large, colorful window boxes, fully showcasing each of the combinable Dinozords on the inside. So we got the Tyrannosaurus Zord, we've got the Mastodon, which comes with the sword, we've got the Saber-toothed Tiger Zord, which you can see has some projectiles. We have the Triceratops Zord, and finally the Pterodactyl, and worth noting on this one, if you buy the Pterodactyl, you also get all 5 Rangers as little minifigures, which is pretty cool. And that brings us to the Zords, which is probably the thing that we're most excited for, right? You gotta have really cool Zords to go with the Power Rangers toy line. So let's see how Playmates did with these. We'll look at them each one by one real quick in Dyno mode, then we'll put them all together. So we'll start with the Pterodactyl. And one of the things you're gonna notice right away are just how big those cannon feet are on the bottom of this. Those are always like an optional piece, right? Like, I don't know if you always display yours with those or not. Like, every version has always come with those, but they do just feel really oversized on here. Plus, you'll notice that one of the things Playmates is really going for with these is the spring-loaded missiles. So you'll see this on several of the Zords where they've got these oversized missiles because they got the spring-loaded mechanisms, and then they've got blast on there. So you got these big pink lasery blasts that when pressing the button, they'll blast those off so you can shoot off those pink missiles there. Otherwise, I think the Pterodactyl Pretty much moves the way you would expect. It does have an opening jaw or a beak, which is pretty cool. So you can open that up. The wings will fold inwards, of course, part of the transformation there. You can see there is some pink on the back via these stickers, but it's pretty minimalistic, which is why, of course, they opted to include the little minifigures with this one, which I'll bring those in here really quick. I do really like these. I think this is a very cool idea to have tiny little figures of each of the Rangers, and including it with the Pterodactyl is pretty cool because you're paying the same price for each of the Zords, and obviously there's a lot less to this one than the others, so having the bonus of the 5 little minifigures, that's actually pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and bring in Kimberly here real quick as well from the Auto-Morphers just to show you the scale relation with the Pterodactyl. So next up we have the Triceratops. Again, pretty minimalistic. There is not a lot going on here. The tank treads are all just part of the sculpt. They don't really move or roll. In fact, there are no wheels on this whatsoever, so there's no actual rolling with this. It's kind of just a brick. It doesn't really do a whole lot other than its transformation for the Megazord mode. The only exception to that is he also gets a rocket firing missile on his tailpiece here, so you can see that can roll backwards or launch straight up in the air like I just did it by mistake. That's because the push button is right here. So yeah, you get this little kind of like double barrel blast that just plugs in there. So you can bring the tail forward and you can launch the missile that way. Or again, you can point the tail backwards, however you want to do it there. Of course, on this side, we also have like the exposed screw holes on there. You do have some stickers on the front that just come on there already. No sticker assembly with any of these, which is kind of nice. But there you go. And then let me just go ahead and bring in Billy and stand him next to that so you can see the scale here. The Yellow Ranger's saber-toothed tiger is similar, but a little bit better because at least this one does have articulated legs. However, the only point of articulation is actually at the body there. So you can only move the legs forwards and backwards. These are not joints at the ankles or the knees. So the legs are pretty static otherwise, meaning there's only one way the legs can actually be in order to have the figure standing. We can't really do different running or crouching poses or anything like that. The teeth are articulated, which is a bit odd. And then we do also have the little cannon on the back of this one as well, which has a yellow rocket firing missile. Again, just press the button and that should, maybe plug it in all the way first. There we go. Blasts off that yellow blast effect there for your saber-toothed tiger. And I've done it with the others. I should do that as well. Here's Trini standing alongside her Zord. Mastodon is definitely a bit chunkier feeling than the others, and obviously he's got the most activity as far as the transformation goes, but there's not a lot you do with it in this form here. The front legs are static. This is all just a static piece right here. You can move the back legs back, but that's because it's part of the transformation of the Zord. So that's kind of the lesson with these. As individual Zords, there's really not a lot you can do with them. They are kind of meant to just stand here and display. Aside from like the rocket firing missiles, you're not going to get a ton of movement out of them. You can move his trunk up and down a little bit, so that's kind of nice. He does look really cool. He definitely has more deco than the others because of the stickers, but he's also got some painted stripes here. This all appears to be painted on the ears, which looks really nice. We've also got some different color stickers, so he's pretty cool looking. Let's bring Zack in over here to stand next to his Zord. He can't hold his axe. Hey, there we go. It's actually standing up. And lastly, we've got the Tyrannosaurus, which is, of course, the biggest one since he is the base of your Megazord there. So he's got some articulation in the hips. You can see there like that's tight ratchet joints. You can actually bring the legs outwards or inwards. That's probably definitely more for the posing of the Megazord itself. The ratchet joints, of course, are to help him stand up while he's got all the other Zords attached to him there. So he's got movement at the knees and the ankles, all very tight ratchet joints again, which is going to help with transformation. You can move the arms up, but there's no joints at the elbows here either, so he's always stuck in this pose right here. You can move the head and open the mouth a little bit there, but of course that just kind of reveals, like, you know, the inside there. Of course, we're going to transform this. We're going to open this all up and move him to turn him into the Megazord. He's pretty nice looking. He feels very similar to some of the Zords we've had before. And here's Jason to stand alongside his Tyrannosaurus, so you can see the scale, obviously biggest of the bunch right there. So now it's time to build the mighty Megazord. Let me go ahead and walk you through the process here step by step, which of course we're gonna start with our T-Rex Zord. So I will say, ratchet joints, very nice. Everything feels nice and sturdy on these, but as far as the transformations go, it's nothing out of the ordinary, meaning if you've had any Power Rangers Zords toys before, you probably won't even really need to look at the instructions. It's a really easy process to kind of go through the motions there and get them all figured out. So we're gonna do the legs here. It is worth noting that the cannons can be folded down into the backs of the saber-toothed tiger and the Triceratops with those missiles still attached. If you don't want the missiles there, of course, you can fire those out. Very minimal articulation, obviously, in the legs, meaning there is only one way to really do that, to get them to transform all the way into the leg. Same with the Triceratops. You can see very easy stuff. So here we go. We'll go ahead and take our T-Rex there, our Tyrannosaurus. These just have some square pegs that do have little clips on the side, so it locks it in place. Very easy. You can see it actually stands very well. So the one that's got the most transformability is the Mastodon, which is pretty common. The head comes off because that's going to be our shield. And then, of course, we can separate the body here to fold it open. These will be the arms. And then you're going to, of course, fold the legs around to create the hands. Just like so. Boom. So we're going to take this, we're going to clip it to the back. There are little clips there. Line it up, it should lock in place. Just like that. Then you can lock the sides in place. Just like that. And then the tail in the back, you're going to want to fold up. And that clips in place as well to hold in place nice and sturdy. The shoulders do have a tendency to kind of fall down, I've noticed, but if you lift them up all the way, they should lock in place there. So then we can fold the chest downwards here. That opens up so that you can fold the T-Rex head down, fold that torso back up, clip it in place. And of course, that's going to bring us to our Pterodactyl. We're going to take those legs off. We're going to fold the head in first, then the wings. And this also just has two little clips on the back side there that are going to plug right in over here. You can see these little notches right here. Just like that. Fold the little ears out, and this right here is your Megazord. Now, you can also clip the little feet with the missile launchers to the back if you'd like to. It's got two little peg holes there, so those clip there. Of course, if you leave the missiles in place, that means you have two pink missiles sticking out of the top there. And then, of course, the Mastodon head has a handle that pulls outwards, so you can plug that into one of the hands. And then, of course, you've got the power sword, which can go into the other hand. So this is it. This is your mighty Megazord. Let me go ahead and bring in the tape measure here so that you can see from top to bottom. Oh, you're talking just shy of 15 inches. It's about a 15-inch tall Megazord, which is pretty hefty. But you know, like we talked about with all of the Zords, you're still gonna get very minimal articulation out of this. The arms really only move forwards and backwards. They do slightly come outwards, but you don't have any elbow bends. There's no wrist swivels, nothing like that. The head is static, it sticks in place. The legs do bend at the knees, and they do seem sturdy enough to hold the Megazord up. You can slightly bring the legs out to the sides if you want to, but that's really about all you're gonna get as far as your articulation goes. Now, I will say, it's very stable. Like, it doesn't feel like it's gonna fall apart. It doesn't feel too loose. It stands well on its own. So it feels like a nice solid toy that is gonna be good for kids to play with, which of course is definitely what Playmates is going for here. Now, I will say, I'm a little surprised they didn't get a little bit more deluxe with this. I'm thinking back to the couple of Voltrons that they made. They did a classic Voltron, they did one for the Netflix Voltron. Both of those were really cool in the sense that not only were the builds really nice and very similar to this, but they also had lights and sounds. And the lights and sounds were very cool in them in the sense that, like, it knew when you were attaching certain lions and it would call it out. It would have been really neat to see them incorporate that into this. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't do it, but maybe it was just to keep the price point low on these, because at $20 a Zord, you're essentially able to complete the entire Megazord for the $100 mark, which today, not so bad. I assume most people are going to want this whole thing, so I don't necessarily understand the point in selling them all individually instead of in a box set like we used to get back in the day. The only thing I can think about is as a price point thing. Maybe the retailers wanted a certain SKU and a certain size on the shelves. Maybe a big box for $100 was something that retail wasn't as interested in. Those are my only guesses. I don't know if there's anything solid to that. I definitely think it would have made more sense to sell it all together, because I feel like a Power Rangers fan is going to want the whole Megazord, and I'm hoping this isn't going to be one of those situations where, like, you're only finding the Pterodactyl and nothing else. Or like, I found the Triceratops and the T-Rex, but I can't find the Mastodon. You know, I'm hoping that if you want the whole thing, it's just gonna be easy to get the whole thing. Now, the option is here to also convert them into the tank mode, the tanker. And if you need it, there is a set of instructions that comes with all of the Zords that will teach you how to do it. I'm actually going to do it right now for the first time. I haven't done that yet. The Megazord, it was very easy for me to kind of put together with instinct too. Like I said, I've put together many Megazords over the years, but I'll be honest, I don't have as much experience doing the tank mode. So let's do that real quick. So we're basically gonna take him apart now. All this work we did putting him together wasn't so bad. Okay, I do want to show you this real quick before we take it all apart. It's very easy to pop the Pterodactyl and the Mastodon off of the pegs that you attach them to. The saber-toothed tiger and the Triceratops do lock onto the legs, which is nice. So if you want to take those off, there's actually a little lever back here that you're gonna lift up, and that'll allow you to pull the leg off. And even then, it's still like a little pretty tight, but you can see the lever is supposed to help pop these little tabs in on the side. I just wanted to show that to you real quick, but for the sake of what we're doing, we got to leave these still attached anyway. So we basically got them in this like sitting position. I'm gonna bring the T-Rex head back up here. This is what we got going on right now. We're gonna switch the feet back forward on the Mastodon here. And then that is gonna come right back on the back here again. Clip it to the sides. But now we fold this forward with the Mastodon feet. Those cannons from your Pterodactyl are gonna attach to the front here with the blasters. The Mastodon head will then plug into this little hole. You can see there's a little hole in the torso up on the front, so the handle slides right in there just like that. And then we bring the Pterodactyl in. We want to bring the head back up, but then we're going to fold the wings back in again. All right, so that's a really interesting. So you basically have to pinch the horns or like the Megazord ears onto these little grooves on the front of the Pterodactyl on the back, but it actually does a pretty good job of holding it together. And that right there completes our tanker mode, which I gotta be honest, always thought that was so weird looking. I mean, this does a good job of capturing the weirdness of it from the series, and it's cool that you've got the option to do it. I am curious how many of you out there are actually displaying a Megazord in tanker form, huh? It's pretty strange. And there you go. That is my look at the Playmates Toys comeback of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. All in all, like, I think the toys are fine toys. They're solid, they've got fun action features. The Zord is a nice Zord, it's sturdy, it's gonna be good for play. I guess I just kind of have some questions as to the direction that this is all taking. Mighty Morphin is obviously looked at as probably the most recognizable version of the Power Rangers. Like, it was the first one here stateside. It's certainly the one that a lot of people of our age group are nostalgic for. But I think a lot of Power Rangers fans would tell you that there's so much more to Power Rangers than just Mighty Morphin. And this is what seems to happen over and over again. Now, I don't know if it's like a brand recognition thing. I guess that they were probably going for the safe bet here. But these are also heavily marketed as kids' toys, which is great. It's fine. I love it when toys are made for kids. But the question always remains, are kids gonna know these? I know that you could watch Power Rangers on streaming services, but how tuned in are kids right now to Power Rangers, specifically the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? I think that's the biggest looming question that I have hanging over this whole thing, and I think time will tell, seeing how well these perform in stores. I feel bad for all of the hardcore Power Rangers fans out there because I feel like they've really had a bad break trying to get a really good solid collector line featuring all the different Rangers from all the different series. There's been lots of stop and go. The Legacy collection kind of fizzled out with Hasbro, and now we've got head flippers again, and it's a great classic action feature, no doubt about it. But is this what the Rangers need right now? I guess time will tell. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think. As always, thank you for watching. Until next time, my friends.